You are about to see the men and women of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office working at their task of making our community safer. You will also see the stories of crimes that have been committed. We are looking for these subjects. They are Jefferson's most wanted. Far too often, a weapon is used to frighten or threaten another citizen. Besides the trauma to the victim, it is a very small step from threatening with a weapon to firing a weapon. The act of threatening a person is an assault. The use of a weapon makes the crime more serious because the presence of a weapon increases the likelihood that it will be used.
In February 2017, Sidney Catchings, a black male, 48 years of age, armed with a handgun, threatened a former acquaintance in the 1600 block of Clearview Parkway. When the victim notified the sheriff's office, Catchings fled in a black Chrysler 200 bearing Louisiana tag 513AJH. Catchings' last known address was on West 10 Parkway in New Orleans.
The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office has issued a warrant for Catchings' arrest on the charge of aggravated assault with a firearm. Anyone knowing the location of Sidney Catchings is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 822-1111 or Deputy Robichaux with JPSO at 364-5300. The Sheriff's Office is attempting to identify the black male seen in store video surveillance in connection with numerous thefts of electronic equipment at several retail outlets on both the East Bank and West Bank of Jefferson Parish.
The suspect has been seen driving a Chevrolet Tahoe. Its year is unknown. The vehicle is gold in color and bears a stolen Louisiana tag RFB142. The suspect has been armed with a firearm when confronted by store employees. The subject is described as a black male, 30 years of age, 5'9" to 5'10" in height, weighing 200 pounds. He is wanted on the charge of shoplifting.
Anyone knowing the identity of this subject and or the location of the vehicle in question is asked to contact Crime Stoppers or Detective Dennis Thornton with the JPSO Criminal Intelligence Center at 875-3300. The JPSO Burglary Section is investigating numerous business burglaries of tobacco and convenience stores in the areas of Harvey, Woodmere, Avondale, and Marrera. The suspects break the glass doors of the businesses between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. and steal large quantities of cigarettes for the purpose of selling them.
George Gibson, a black male, 56 years of age, has been identified as one of the perpetrators and is wanted on several counts of business burglary. His last known address was on Cynthia Street in Wegman.
The second subject seen in the store video surveillance is an unknown black male, 45 years of age. He is bald with a thin mustache and a stocky build. He was wearing a New Orleans Saints jersey with the number 42 on it, black pants, black tennis shoes, and a shoulder-length wig.
The suspects are known to be driving two vehicles, a gray GMC Envoy with a Louisiana tag SYT922 and a blue 1997 Chevrolet Astro van with a Louisiana tag 874AEK.
These subjects are wanted on the charge of simple burglary. Anyone knowing the location of George Gibson or the identity of the second subject is asked to contact Crime Stoppers or Detective Keith Dowling with the JPSO Burglary Section.
I've been reading the paper lately, and I got concerned, and then I remembered, no, I've heard about this all my life. There have been a number of arrests of young people. There was a ring breaking into cars. There was a burglary ring. Now there's a robbery ring. And I was going to ask you today, are young people getting worse? But I remember we've always had juvenile delinquents. But is there an upsurge in crimes committed by young people?
Not that we've been able to determine at the present time. Sometimes I believe that the severity of the crimes that they're involved in goes in cycles, and we'll see a small number of juveniles that will participate in more violent types of crimes. We were able to solve 2 separate cases that dealt with predominantly juveniles, almost catching them while committing the crime, and in both cases solving them shortly after they committed the crime by utilization of any number of technologies that we have deployed. And it's good that that happens that way, because if they're successful once, they're going to do it again within a very short period of time, which was the case in both of these cases. So in one case, they had carjacked 2 different couples, and we caught them in both of those couples' cars, a Lexus and a Mercedes, on the West Bank, and they had committed it on the East Bank.
I suppose it's what gets the press. Like, people get concerned because, there are more murders than ever. Actually, the murder rate has gone down, but the media makes it seem different.
Well, I mean, we're down from our all-time high in 2006, which was 66 murders, which is the most that we ever had. We were up a little bit in 16 over 15, but in 2016, overall crime was down 5%, and in 2016, that was the lowest crime rate year since 1974. So, we like to keep that trend going. Yep. January of 2017, we posted a 9% decrease over January of 2016. Last year, January was a very violent month, and hopefully, February holds where it is, and we don't have that incredibly violent month occur. So, it's kind of cyclical. Depending on the nature of the crime, you never really know why these things are happening when they're happening. But already this year, we've had an officer killed in the line of duty.
Yeah. We talked about this last year, and it's time for it again. But the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, I think I've got that right, they award scholarships, one for each parish.
Yeah, we all participate in a program with the Sheriff's Association, and as a result of that participation, the revenues derived go partly to fund a scholarship for a local student. We open it up, and we have a committee that evaluates the folks that put in for the scholarship in Jefferson Parish, and the committee makes a pick. I'm not on the committee, but the committee makes a pick of a worthy individual that's in college, and we award a partial scholarship for them. It's our way of giving back to the community and trying to help somebody in gaining the successes that they need in order to make it through the college years.
But it's somebody that's already in college, not someone who wants to go.
Either way, it could be a senior going to college or someone that's in college.
Okay. Are we outside the application period now?
I don't believe so. I think we're inside the application period. And it's always good to apply because we can re-up you for the following year.
Yeah, carry over. Okay. I got this information off the website, which I recommend to anybody who hasn't been to it yet. And while I was browsing the website, I noticed something that I hadn't noticed before. But you have a link or a site there that you can go and check whether or not there's a sex offender in your neighborhood.
Yeah, the program's called Offender Watch, and it's actually was developed by a guy on the North Shore, Mike Carmacy. The company is called Watch Systems, and it's really utilized, I think, now by almost all 50 states. And it started right here in Louisiana. And it's a software where it automatically sends out the notices when the sex offender registers, that we have to send notices to everybody within, I think, a quarter of a mile, if my memory serves me correct. Mm-hmm. So we outsource that task to this company. They do a great job. They maintain the link from our website to theirs, and where you can actually see where all the sex offenders live. You can pull up their picture, you can pull up their background, their history, so that you can make yourself aware of this individual being in your neighborhood.
And the sex offender must register. If he doesn't, then he's in trouble,
If
right?
he doesn't, he's violated on his probation or parole. And we make those we do roundups on that where we identify folks who have not registered that may be living in Jefferson Parish, and we go out and arrest them.
Okay. Now, social media, which is kind of what we're talking about in a way, or at least computers, that's becoming a big thing. You have a Facebook page too. And it just seems that not just us, but everybody's using social media more to communicate, to get information out. What are your plans for it?
Well, we dabbled in that technology for a while, and then just recently we hired a young man who is our director of that now to help us become a lot more robust in pushing information out through the social networks. So many people are connected to the world through the social networks. You and I were connected to the world through our local newspaper or our local news station, or listening to the radio in our car. That's not the way that people connect, the younger folks connect anymore. So in order to have the market penetration and the breadth and depth of what you want in getting that information out, it's absolutely necessary to engage in these other modes of communication. And so we're in it now. We've a little over a month that he's come on board, and it has increased our reach exponentially, maybe 10 times what it was prior, in less than 30 days. So as we begin to whet the appetite of those that have a desire to follow us on the social networks, we'll see where this leads us.
Being an old guy, I was skeptical about all of this stuff when it started, but I must admit I'm getting into it because it's a really handy way of catching up and finding things.
Yeah, so many of my peers are on it. I kind of chuckle. I don't know where anybody finds the time. So I really don't monitor it, and I'm not on Facebook, and I'm not on Twitter myself personally. Yeah. The office is, because I just don't have the time. It takes me a good portion of the day just to catch up on emails.
I have a son-in-law who's on it so much, I'm afraid he's going to get fired. Looking forward to a good Mardi Gras?
Just want to remind everybody, use common sense. Everybody likes to cut up, have a good time. That's okay. If you're going to add the alcohol component to it, you've got to do so responsibly and understand that there are other people's lives that could be at risk for your actions. We want everybody to have a good time, and we understand that that's part of the overall scheme of things. But let's just do it in a very safe way.
Good. Next month when we're back here, I hope we can say it was a great, successful Mardi Gras. Thanks for a few minutes of your time.
Thank you. Economic crime involving credit cards is a growing problem because they have become easy to fake. Driver's licenses can be used for the same purpose. Protecting our personal information becomes even more important when subjects are cloning them for use. The subject seen in this store video is wanted for bank fraud.
The black male seen in the store video surveillance is wanted for bank fraud that he committed by depositing a counterfeit check at a local banking institution on the east bank of Jefferson Parish. The subject is using a fake Illinois driver's license in the name of Lonnie Poydras, a black male, 35 years of age.
Anyone knowing the correct identity of this subject is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 822-1111 or Detective Chad Mackey with the JPSO Economic Crime Unit at 364-5335. Crimes are committed by criminals. That may seem obvious, but very often the subjects we are looking for are repeat offenders. An addict may commit theft to support a habit. The drugs may make the subject violent, leading to the commission of more violent crimes. Because crime is a matter of concern for our entire metropolitan area, city lines cannot be a factor in apprehending suspects. Jailing these offenders may not be the whole answer, but the first step is removing them from society.
Ryan Allen Maxted, a white male, 32 years of age, is wanted by the Mandeville Police Department on charges of simple burglary. Maxted had a criminal history and arrest for theft, narcotics, battery, and violation of a protective order. His last known address was on General Pershing Street in Mandeville, Louisiana. Ryan Allen Maxted is being sought by the Mandeville Police Department. Anyone knowing his location is asked to contact Crime Stoppers or the Mandeville Police Department at 985-624-3119.
Juveniles who commit crimes are a challenge for law enforcement. The crime cannot be ignored, but law enforcement must be careful to handle it in a way that does not create a career criminal. The Juvenile Division of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office is trained to walk that fine line with dedication and compassion. Lieutenant Jeff Villamoret visited us recently to give us an insight as to how our Juvenile Division functions.
Any crime committed where the suspect is 16 or younger, we get that case all the way, any case that you can imagine, except for homicides.
Homicide is different, okay.
We let homicide deal with homicides. That's their specialty. We do assist quite often, but for the most part, we handle all crimes committed where a juvenile is involved. So you could have 6 other subjects that are over 17 and up, and 1 juvenile, and we will take that case.
What prompts the crimes? Is it like showing off of friends, or?
A lot of it, in my opinion, is peer pressure. In my experience, I believe that the majority of people are good people, even doing this job and typically only seeing the negative side. I still like to keep a positive outlook, and I do believe there's a lot more good in people than bad. And typically, as they say, one bad apple can spoil a bunch. There's typically one that is typically like a ringleader, and then the rest are followers. And they fall into that peer pressure, and they crumble under it, and they wind up getting themselves in trouble that they didn't foresee.
Now, I know when it comes to prosecuting a crime, there are some very restrictive laws. In investigating juvenile crimes, are you restricted in any way by the law?
We do have some restrictions that need to be accounted for when conducting juvenile investigations. Primarily, it's the releasing of information. Juvenile records are sealed, and what that means is it's not just open to the public.
Right.
But as far as restrictions, in the investigations, we handle investigations just as any other section in the Bureau.
But dealing with the juvenile has got to be different from dealing with an adult crime.
One of the major differences would be the advisement of rights. And it's hard enough to get someone to talk to you. I say all the time, the truth will set you free, because it really does. It helps us see the truth, and that is really our job, is bringing the truth to the courts so that they can make an informed decision on the repercussions that need to take place. But when we are dealing with a juvenile, the courts don't believe that they are capable of understanding their rights on their own. So not only do the parents reiterate what their rights are, but we make sure before a child gives us any information that they are fully aware that they have the right to remain silent and that anything they say can and will be used against them. And
You mentioned parents. Are they a problem in investigating juvenile crime? Not my kid. He wouldn't do that.
you'd be surprised. Even with some of the worst cases, we have some parents that typically would defend their child. And you can see that as being the reason that this child keeps doing these crimes.
Too entitled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These children, sometimes they feel like their parents' protection is almost guaranteed. However, sometimes these parents get to a point where they realize their child is either going to end up dead or in jail, and they would rather their child be in jail and alive than dead.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say, I warn children on a regular basis that this is, if they stay on the path that they're on, these are one or two options. And it's sad to say, but I've looked at more than one on a coroner's table that I had actually made that statement to.
Coroner's table is an awful thought, but it happens.
It does happen.
Socioeconomic status, does that make any difference in the crimes?
Sometimes. I believe that all people are capable, but you do see different trends with different socioeconomic classes. And then different groups will move to different neighborhoods, and if they're breaking into cars, they typically want to go to a neighborhood that they think they're going to get something good out of.
Yeah. If the child has not committed a crime, but if they're worried about him, can they contact you?
Absolutely. And matter of fact, we would like to be more proactive than reactive in those cases. I'd much rather talk to a child and at least have a chance to attempt to curb their behavior before they commit a crime and then have to suffer the consequences of the courts. And we have a pretty good success rate with that. You can't reach all of them, but myself and each one of my detectives, they know each time that they're communicating with this child that that's an opportunity. And we don't take it lightly, and we give it 110%.
Our partnership with law enforcement in the metropolitan area has increased our opportunities of apprehending subjects who commit crimes through the fraudulent use of credit cards. Through modern technology and the sharing of information, the investigation of these crimes is now area-wide.
The black male and the black female seen in the store video surveillance are wanted for theft on January 30th, 2017 in a 2700 block of Belchase Highway. The victim's credit card was stolen and subsequently used at a retail outlet the same day in the 1700 block of Manhattan Boulevard.
Multiple prepaid gift cards were purchased with the stolen card. Anyone knowing the identity of these two subjects is asked to contact Crime Stoppers or Detective Rebecca Macaluso with the JPSO Burglary Section. It is nearing that time of year when boaters will be on the water. It is also near the start of storm season. In both of those cases, boat rescues may become necessary. For that reason, our deputies are constantly training to assist the efforts of the primary first responders in the Laser Division.
These vessels, they're commercial rated. On every boat you'll have a Coast Guard capacity, maximum capacity sticker. On these boats, it does not pertain to us because it's commercial. We don't obey by that. You put as many people as you feel safe in this boat to operate it. If you feel safe with only 2 people, it's only 2 people. Feel safe with 20 people, 20 people. Just don't have water coming over the sides because you'll sink it. On these engines, you have forward, reverse, and neutral. The actual neutral is above the end. You'll feel it click. Push it forward for forward. When you come back to neutral, if you're on the end, it's still in gear, so you got to come just slightly above, and then you reverse. When you go to start these, on the actual throttle right here, you have the kill switch on the front, and then you have the turtle, obviously for slow, and the rabbit for fast. And about a quarter of the way, throttle on up towards the rabbit, you have a butterfly, which is the choke. I like pulling straight up, bumping whatever I'm in, nosing into whatever, house, roof, window, porch, another boat. If you come on the side and you're sitting here and the other deputy's sitting on that side, well, if somebody goes to walk in, that deputy's already on this side now, where you're sitting, all the weight's here, each person gets in, more weight, you're gonna take on water or capsize the boat. So if you pull straight on and you keep it in forward with a little throttle, it'll keep it pushed up to whatever you want, and you'll notice on these, if you try it, as soon as you bump up and you keep throttle on it, and you get on the front and you try moving the boat, it's not gonna move on you.
Stay in reverse, nice smooth on the throttle, and just avoid any of that vegetation that you see behind the motor. You don't want it all getting sucked up in there. It gets sucked in there, then we're gonna jam the motor, we got to pick it up. You don't want to pick the motor up. Turn the wheel this way. Okay, roll down off the throttle. Now go straight forward, and you're gonna do the same thing you did a minute ago. You're gonna go in straight, and you're gonna switch your hands, and you're gonna work the throttle, the forward and neutral and reverse position. Okay, you know where you're going. So start making your cut in now. Don't mess with the throttle at all. Everything you're gonna do is you're gonna swap your hand, and you're gonna put your other hand on that shifter. And see how you're going? You know you're gonna nose up right there. You know you're gonna get there. There's no wind blowing at you. So you know you're gonna make it. So there's no reason to roll on the throttle and go crazy with it and bump into the dock. So you're gonna now start using your shifter. Neutral, reverse. And see, that's gonna cushion our landing here. Okay? And it's just a little finesse. You're gonna tap it, back to neutral, forward. That's gonna hold you on the dock, nice secured base.
Our safety is precedent. We want to make sure that we do the best we can rescuing people, but in the end, our safety is precedent. So don't take on any more than we can handle, and we'll rescue as many as we can.
The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office works every day to keep our streets safe. To be effective, we need citizens as committed as we are. Here are the images of the persons who are currently Jefferson's most wanted.
Attention, Sidney Catchings, a black male 48 years of age, is wanted by the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office on the charge of aggravated assault with a firearm for approaching a former acquaintance in the 1600 block of Clearview Parkway in Metairie, armed and threatening with a handgun. Anyone knowing the location of Sidney Catchings is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 822-1111 or Deputy Robichaud with JPSO at 364-5300. Attention, George Gibson, a black male, 56 years of age, is wanted by the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office on burglary charges. He and a second suspect drive a gray GMC Envoy with Louisiana license tag number SYT922 and a blue 1997 Chevrolet Astro with Louisiana license tag 874AEK. Anyone knowing the location of George Gibson or the identity of the second subject is asked to contact Crime Stoppers or Detective Keith Dowling with the JPSO Burglary Section.